Acolytes. Scouter V did the next one. Japan's games are doomed. I don't know why, and of course I hope not, for F's sake. And by the way, can you see this? Can you see this thumbnail? Now, let me be honest, I am not saying any shit about it. Oh wait, give me a second. The thumbnail of the video. I think this is the Studio Ghibli filter. I think. I don't know. Because the man is talented as he is. But I think this is the Studio Ghibli filter. And I would be happy because this looks freaking awesome. And I know people won't like it. But hey. Let's just start, won't we?
My dudes, get your lubes and make sure.
Alright, okay. If you don't know, this was probably inspired by Son Goku, the very young version of Son Goku, like the very first Dragon Ball. And he put on Bulma's underpants on his face because he didn't know what it is. If I remember correctly.
Sure you bring extra because we're going real weepy with this one. If you've been following gaming news, I'm sure you've already noticed, but almost every Japanese gaming company that we grew up with has been getting a lot of heat for censorship, changing dialogue, and toning down adult themes over the past couple of years. What's going on here? Is this some type of conspiracy? Or is it just a bunch of weirdos overreacting? Well,
I mean, Scouter V, you're so kind. I call those people freaks. And of course, there are a lot of people that are overreacting and destroying our gaming media. I am actually quite surprised that it took so long to actually reach Japan.
Hop in, my dudes. We're going back to a simpler time. I don't know when or what got you dudes into Japanese media, but for me, it was a combination of all the badass 90s anime. My favorites were Cowboy Bebop, Tenchi Muyo, Shadow Skull, and obviously Dragon Ball Z. This in combination of what I consider the peak of Japanese RPGs on the original PlayStation. I know everybody has their own favorite Final Fantasy game, but for most people, it's either 7, 8, or 9. But there were also a ton of other games that were just...
I think of every single person, the favorite Final Fantasy game is their first one. The first one they play. Because mine is Final Fantasy VII. Yes, the old one. The very old one. And from my brother, it's 8. Or the Undead, you know. Every single every single person that actually plays the Final Fantasy for the first time, that's its favorite. Simple as I think.
Just as good like Star Ocean, Legend of Legaia, and Wild Arms. Now, if you're really big into Japanese media or content, you'll probably notice that no matter how different the world or art style is, there is something that they all have in common, and that's the unmistakable Japanese tone, feel, and overall vibe. And also huge... No matter what the genre is, Japan has always been able to take something popular and make it their own. Story about pirates? Boom, One Piece, and Like a Dragon pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Medieval European settings? Oh snap, Elden Ring! And the GOAT, Ocarina of Time, bitches! It kinda makes you wonder, how does Japan come up with so many unique stories and worlds so easily? And why does it always turn out so bad when Western companies try to emulate this style? Like how they butchered my boy Cowboy Bebop. The reason Japan...
it was just a different time, man. Cowboy Bebop got butchered in the time where everything else got butchered. That's not a special case. But for F's sake, why? Irrelevant.
And does so well creating rich stories and unique settings is because it's literally embedded into Japanese culture, in that they take something that's not inherently Japanese and they make it their own. And this goes back for thousands of years. So we're going back even further.
Hell yeah. The fuck?
If you look at Japanese writing, clothing, architecture, and art, you'll notice that's very similar to what you see in ancient China. This isn't just some coincidence. It's because most of early Japan was built on Chinese influences. This is why people who have not studied or consumed Japanese media have a hard time telling the difference. Talking about you, Ubisoft. Ubisoft! It's over! For you! Not for me! So skip ahead a couple of centuries.
A Concord thing just had to be in it. I love it.
And Japan starts slowly introducing and adopting Western influences, such as clothing and politics. They also went a little too hard on the military. But hey, at least we got Tifa. Now, starting around the 1930s, Japanese animation started taking off. If you think you're looking at some vintage Mickey Mouse cartoon, you'd be wrong. Japan started off by emulating early Disney animation. And just like everything Japan touches, it became its own thing. And now they got us all out here watching some weird shit. There's this one anime where this dude has a notebook like in Death Note, but he writes the names of these cute girls in it, and then they...
Yes.
My bad. So what does this all have to do with gaming? Well, in the 80s and 90s, Japan basically took over the auto and electronic industries with the same design philosophies. But more importantly, Nintendo launched its console, the Famicom, outside of Japan, pulling us out of the video game crash of 1983, which was caused by market saturation and poor quality games released by Atari. Nintendo literally saved console gaming with Mario and Zelda by blowing the minds of every kid back in the day. And unfortunately, the minds of stay-at-home moms as
they effing exploded the standards. That's why until this day, people are so freaking fanboying Nintendo. Even though, how is it called, the second handheld they are just bringing out with the multiplayer Bloodborne thing that's of course exclusive, because for F's sake, why would I get my freaking Bloodborne on the PC? Irrelevant. Acolytes? It is what it is.
They started complaining about gaming violence.
Shame on people that produce that trash. It's child abuse in my judgment.
This led to one of the biggest scams in gaming ever created. Rating boards such as the ESRB, which was established in 1994. And since other countries have different views on what's appropriate for children, Japan followed suit, creating Sero in 2002, and also Europe created PEGI in 2004. These companies literally created a problem and are selling gaming studios the solution, as it can cost thousands of dollars to have a game rated. And since these companies are privately owned and self-regulated, they get to decide on what is offensive.
He's correct about that. One of the biggest scams in the world. And you know what? It worked. Their souls are so disgusting, I wouldn't even take them for my phylactery.
Japanese and Western developers have criticized Sero specifically for being too strict, such as Hori Hoji-san, the creator of Dragon Quest, and the creator of Kirby and Super Smash Bros, Sakurai Masahiro-san. Hey, are you paying attention? Or are you looking at the Japanese waitress? Come on, dudes, pay attention. Now, a lot of people think that all this censorship we keep seeing in Japanese games is only due to Sero being strict, but you're not seeing the whole picture. It's only part of the problem. It doesn't explain why we keep seeing games censoring content that would have zero impact on the rating of the game. But even if it did, I don't respect any company that is willing to dumb down and censor their content instead of just respecting the core material. Not to mention the people that are buying these games have only gotten older, and literally nobody gives a shit about ratings anymore. So what's going on? Well, let's look at the facts. These companies all proudly state on their website their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is a Western ideology. It's not Japanese. But what does that mean exactly? And does it really have a negative impact on Japanese games?
It has a negative impact on everything.
Hamaguchi Naoki-san, who was the project lead for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, recently stated that there is a change of essence in Square Enix's approach to game development in terms of prioritizing the global audience right from the beginning. And this starts with their hiring practices. Historically, Japanese companies like Squaresoft, now Square Enix, had a workforce that was predominantly Japanese, especially in their early years. However, they've been trying to diversify their company by hiring foreign nationals to localize and work on their games. They now state that around 50% of their
not even the Powerpuff Girls are safe from you. I love your head. You're just I love it.
Management is now foreign nationals. And while they don't state what percent of their total employees are non-Japanese, Capcom, which has had a ton of controversy for their censorship, does. They stated that now 6.8% of their staff is not Japanese, which is insane for a
Yeah, and the thing is, this is also a freaking gigantic scam. Karens literally created their own jobs in different countries. This is mind-blowing to me. How the F did we get so pacified that we literally create jobs for freaking Karens? It's incredible.
Japanese company working inside of Japan. So let me ask you dudes, what do you think happens when you slowly start replacing Japanese developers and Japanese culture with non-Japanese people that don't understand Japanese culture at all? Well, it's pretty obvious that these games are going to start to feel less and less Japanese and look more Western. This is why we keep seeing female characters being censored and world building that does not feel or look like it was created by a Japanese studio. This is one of the reasons that this body type A or B nonsense is such a red flag, as this shows that the game has more than likely been created with a non-Japanese audience in mind. Not a single Japanese person is walking around Japan and wanting this in their games, or even understand what the hell it is. It's literally US gender ideologies being forced into Japanese content, and many of us have been noticing this going on with Japanese games for a while now. But don't take my word for it. Masahiro Sakurai-san has voiced his opinion on the matter recently regarding the direction of Japanese games. He was asked on his thoughts on the noticeable boom in the Chinese gaming market, which by the way wouldn't be as popular if Japanese devs got their shit together. Also, some people try to say that this was a mistranslation, but I went ahead and translated this myself. He stated, "I believe Japanese people should push forward with what they love. A while back there was this culture of thinking, since various works are popular in America, let's make Americanized stuff. A tendency to align with a de facto standard, which is a product or specification that becomes the standard through market competition." But surprisingly, overseas fans of Japanese games don't seem to want that. I feel like they're seeking Japanese uniqueness and the charm that comes with it. In other words, I think it's ideal to create what you like freely and let those who enjoy it embrace it. And he's exactly right. He perfectly...
Yes. Yeah. Again, power. Okay. Yes. He is right. He is correct. I agree with you. Just stay yourself. It's fine. Why I don't even, why would you want to westernize it when everything goes to freaking, well, zombie feces, zombie camel feces? For F's sake, just, okay.
Explains the issues plaguing Japanese games right now. And this is why Chinese companies are starting to take over. Literally nobody wants to play westernized Japanese games. But for some reason, these companies keep using internal localizers or go out of their way to pay activist companies labeling themselves as sensitivity consultants to censor female characters, hide any offensive content, and modernize the game so that it doesn't offend anybody, instead of just directly translating them like they did back in the day. I think the best way to show this is with the original Final Fantasy VII, which was released in 1997, and the remake, which was released in 2020, with Part 2 Rebirth being released in 2024. This 30-year gap shows exactly how much of an impact Western ideologies have had on a Japanese company like Square Enix. And I've already made a video about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that goes more in depth with the issues I have with those games. But since I played the OG, remake, and Rebirth all in English and Japanese, it's easy to see how much of an impact the West has had on Japanese games. Oh,
damn. Okay, this guy just knows his shit.
But I like those games, so you're wrong. Man, shut up. I'm not saying that these games are terrible, and there's nothing wrong with criticizing something you like or discussing its shortcomings. Just understand that these changes either made the game worse or less Japanese. While playing these games, I noticed that a ton of dialogue and content was changed in the remake and Rebirth from the original game, as it could be deemed offensive to women or put minorities in a negative light. Unfortunately, these changes have had a huge impact on character development and world building, which made the original game feel unique and inherently Japanese. Look at this scene from the original game that takes place on a train in Midgar. A character named Jesse tells Cloud that when the lights go off, you never know what kind of creeps will come out, which makes you think about pickpockets or something. But in Japanese, she says, 暗くなるから時間が多いのよ.
Free Japanese lesson.
暗くなるから時間が多いのよ means that when the lights go out, there are a lot of chikan. And I'm sure a lot of you weebs know about chikan, but it's a Japanese specific social issue. The best way for me to translate it would be a train molester, which has been an ongoing issue in Japan. There are some weirdo dudes that try to grope women on crowded trains. This is why there are female-only trains available during rush hour times. In 1997, the translator for the game used the term creeps instead of chikan, but it wasn't because it was offensive. It was because it's too hard to explain in English. This is called localization.
Yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, this makes sense. And by the way, I mean, yeah, Japanese trains stuck full, nobody will notice. Or probably just say, we're just, like, we're overloaded, so nobody will. I believe that issue. And I believe that was an issue, so...
Which can be hit or miss depending on how it's handled, like how they messed up rice balls in Pokemon.
These donuts are great! Jelly-filled are my favorite! Nothing beats a jelly-filled donut!
What the hell are you talking about, bro? Anyway, so how was this handled in the remake? Well, it was just completely removed from both the English and Japanese version, because you can't offend women whatsoever, stripping a Japanese-specific issue that shows how much of a dangerous place the slums of Midgar are. Maybe you think this is not a big deal, but these changes happen throughout the entire game. The most offensive one being the Honeybee Inn from Sector 5, which was a...
Oh, the Honeybee Inn was so funny. I left my freaking ass off in the original.
Japanese-specific brothel, or soporando. In the original game, there was even cut content where you were able to pick a girl that you like. Wait, what?
What the? Okay, fair enough.
Well, it's like Disneyland, but a lot better. Basically, in Japan, there are places you can go and pay money to have a girl wash your entire body and... Man, come on, you dudes got Google? So in the remake, they scrapped everything and turned it into some cringe, Vegas-style burlesque show where you're forced to dance with some gay dude in order to virtue signal instead. Nothing in this scene is Japanese. It's the worst part of the game, and you can't even skip it like you could in the original one. And no, it's not cringe because this dude's gay. It's just that since most gay dudes look like everybody else, Square Enix won't be able to get their virtue signal points, so they have to put this dude in spandex in order to get the point across. It's terrible. Come on, dudes. These Japanese companies are so bad at virtue signaling that it breaks the immersion.
True beauty is an expression of the heart. A thing without shame, to which notions of gender don't apply.
And see, if he didn't... I would be okay with the entire thing if they just didn't freaking virtue signal. If they just made the dude a personality, not a freaking political statement, then the entire thing would be fine in my opinion.
Don't ever be afraid, Cloud.
I've said this before, but my favorite character in Baldur's Gate 3 was Astarion. And he was obviously made to be bisexual or whatever, but he was portrayed as a cold-hearted, selfish asshole throughout the entire game, and is deeply flawed. This leads up to one of the most badass revenge side stories I've ever seen in an RPG. However, I've noticed that in Western AAA games, and recent Japanese games specifically, you can't treat minorities or LGBT characters like normal people that have flaws because of this whole equity bullshit or whatever. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, they changed my favorite character Barrett's biggest point of growth. In the original game, Barrett leads the eco-terrorist group Okay, no. known as Avalanche. And in the first mission of the game, you set off to blow up a reactor, which ends up killing thousands of innocent people, which later Barrett regrets, as he states he has a lot of blood on his hands. Too much that he feels it's wrong to even hold his adopted daughter. Well, in the remake, they changed it where the bomb that he planted was just some tiny explosion, and it was actually Shinra that blew up the reactor instead. It completely ruins the impact of his decision and the burden he carries throughout the entire game. And they did this just so that Barrett did not get labeled as some eco-terrorist. It's just so stupid. I'll admit in the OG, there was not a lot of black characters with a lot of dialogue in the world, but there was one dude named Mr. Coates who was basically a gang leader in the Golden Saucer prison. Since I was a kid, I always pictured this dude like one of those gang members in the movie Meteor Man. Man, I'm getting old.
Same
so
here.
anyways, black guy in a prison gang. What should we do? Oh, let's race swap him to be some Vanilla Ice looking dude. Problem solved. Come on. This same thing happened with Larry from the Dead Rising remake as well. This is the only time you'll see a character in a game or movie that's a minority being replaced with some white dude. It's just so obvious why they did this. Man, I just gotta be real. These major AAA Japanese companies have had a hard time making stories that players enjoy. Even with Monster Hunter Wilds, which even though it was a huge success, most people's biggest complaint about the game was how bad the story is, and that you should just skip it to get to the end game. But traditionally, Japanese games have always been carried by their stories. And if Monster Hunter Wilds characters weren't so bad, except for Alma and Gamma, maybe...
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Maybe people would have enjoyed the story a lot more. But hey dudes, look, I can go on and on about censorship, and I have a ton of videos that talk about it. But almost every remake or remaster from the top Japanese companies in the past 5 years have either been censored, had offensive dialogue changed, or gender removed, and I'm just so sick of it. And it sucks that the game I'm looking most forward to about Japan is Showa American Story, which is being developed by a Chinese studio. Come on. Maybe one day Japanese companies will pull their heads out of their asses and stop following the trends from failing Western companies and go back to their roots. There's a reason games such as Like a Dragon are so popular right now. It's because of how so over-the-top Japanese they are. It feels almost alien to people. And also huge jugs. Peace.
I missed that. But yeah, he's just correct. He's just correct about everything. It's so sad that the Japanese games just get westernized. I mean, at this point, I'm gonna be honest, I just don't see the difference between those two. It just lost, like, a lot of games just, well, most of them just lost their charm. That's sad. I just don't understand why at the end of the day. I mean, well, acolytes, this video made me sad. Just in my heart. It just made me sad. But as it is, good night.